Hey, welcome to This Week in Pharmacy. I'm your host and the founder of the Pharmacy Podcast Network, Todd Uri. Today, January 30th, it's Friday. Can you believe that January is is already over? Like this is nuts of how fast. 2025 was pretty fast, but 2026 is heating up. It's been a good January. We've had the Pharmacy 50 Awards. It's just amazing to see how that has grown and the connections that are now being made with some of those winners and what that will do for their positioning, what it's going to do for their careers, how it's going to connect them to other people and opportunities. That is the entire mission of what the Pharmacy 50 Awards is to do, is to accelerate people in our profession that are doing just that little bit more, and they're much more innovative. And one of those people is joining me today on TWIRx, Pharmacy 50 alumni, I think a two-time alumni, my friend Sean Jensen. Sean, what's up?
Hey Todd, it's great to see you. How are you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. You're a two-timer on Pharmacy 50,
I am
or what?
very proud to be the last 2 years. And I was going to say congratulations. It was a great event, a great award season for you. And yeah, I just remember myself. I mean, it's so exciting when you get the email and all the connections, like you said. I mean, it culminates a lot of hard work. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a recognition of that. But no, it's really awesome. I was so excited for all the winners this year. Congratulations to all of them and to you too.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. What I like is the Pharmacy 50 alumni who use that award to connect and to lift up other people, and that's exactly what you've been doing with educating our younger upcoming pharmacists and developers in the realm of artificial intelligence. That's kind of like why I wanted you to be on TWIRx today because I wanted to kind of get into a couple things, but first of all, let's get the important stuff out of the way. The Philadelphia Eagles are not going to the Super Bowl this year, and neither are the Pittsburgh Steelers. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, big disappointment. I thought we might have a Steagall Super Bowl this year, but a lot of my closest friends are big Steelers fans. What do you think about the coach, McCarthy, coming in?
You know, I don't know enough about him to tell you the truth. I've seen things that he did during Brett Favre's younger years, and I think he does a really good job at developing young quarterbacks. I think his heart is in it. And you know what? Really, I will take heart, I think, over, sheer design or cold talent. It's like the way that Bill Belichick made me feel about being much more calculated and much more about, I don't know, but that does get you Super Bowls too. But I like McCarthy's attitude. I saw him on a press conference. I saw him, he's extremely sincere. He's very proud to be coming back to his hometown of Pittsburgh. And if you're winding down your career as an NFL coach and you would have an opportunity to come back to your hometown and coach the freaking Pittsburgh Steelers that he grew up with, like that's a dream come true for him and his family. So I think he has an opportunity to build an outgoing legacy because I can't imagine he's going to be around the same time that the previous Steeler coaches have been in place for 19, 20 plus years. But I think it gives him an opportunity to do something pretty cool in the sunset of his career. So I hope he takes advantage of it. I hope he surrounds himself with some really young, aggressive, offensive coordination talent, and he has a lot of work to do. I mean, if maybe we can use his experience to kick in because the Steelers are a mess.
Yeah, well, I mean, good. Best of luck to the city, and I mean, that's one of the most stable jobs in sports there, like you alluded to there. I mean, it's three coaches in 50, 60 years or something crazy.
Hey, the
So.
only people that want the New England Patriots to win the Super Bowl are New England people and New England fans because the rest of the nation would much rather see the Seattle Seahawks. And for me, since the ref during the Super Bowl between the Steelers and the Seahawks, there were a lot of very questionable calls. It's if they have an opportunity to get it, let them Let them get it. Well, not let them get it, but they'll have to fight for it. But I'd much rather see them win than the New England Patriots. Just to be honest, on here on TWIRx.
Yeah,
Hey, we're
same.
looking at a video from the one and only Tom Brady, one of the greatest, and arguably people could say the greatest QB of all time. But he is now
Hi,
put
I'm Tom
a
Brady.
video.
I'm
Listen to
here
this.
today to
Listen
talk
to this.
about eMed, where I proudly serve as the founding Chief Wellness Officer. We're working on something that I believe really matters: improving population health at scale so that people can feel better, perform better, and protect their long-term health. At eMed, the program is built around your biology. It's structured, it's accountable, and it's designed to help people stay on track. That mindset, discipline, consistency, showing up define my career. And it's the same mindset that drives real change in health over time. We're just getting started, and I'm proud to be part of it. eMed, the science of you, clinical, proven, human.
So I don't know Mr. Brady's background, but to be called the chief wellness officer, it's just strange to me because I didn't know, I haven't looked at his education, but I didn't think he had a medical background and the way that you use terminology in your background. However, you can be called a chief strategy officer and do just about anything for a company. So if you're the wellness officer, maybe he has a team of people under him. And by the way, to tell you the truth, I don't even know what eMed really does, but I do want to say this just from a public relations perspective. If you know where Tom Brady is physically and where eMed is physically as like a organization, I think it's down in Miami, Florida, and you're an independent pharmacy, you're an entrepreneurial pharmacist, you like medication management or you're into mental health, reach out to the eMed team. They're on LinkedIn, so it's right in his post. You'll be able to see, but reach out to this organization called eMed. Look, this is them on LinkedIn and poke around and see if you can't make connections because wilder things have happened. I'd love to see some pharmacists involved in this if there aren't, some already. But Sean, have you heard of eMed?
I mean, it says there the GLP-1. I had heard of them through, the context of GLP-1. I think Tom Brady will hopefully get a lot of recognition here for him is probably the point. But I mean, hey, I'm sure the guy knows a ton about fitness, and like you said, I mean, the figurehead or not, the team around him is really what's going to determine, that impact. And with like Mark Cuban jumping in, I welcome any kind of celebrity or any kind of, spotlight that wants to get shown on the industry and any kind of attention we can get, we'll take it. So sure, Tom Brady wants to get involved in eMed. I welcome that. I think that's great. Let's continue the conversation.
So we did some collaboration with Babson Diagnostics, which is a blood testing tech. It's they put the freezer inside the community pharmacy or the hospital system. They have a device that warms the fingers, and then all of a sudden it gives you a little prick. It extracts blood at a minuscule amount in comparison to how much blood that they normally take. When you go give blood, you're giving sometimes two whole vials. I hate giving blood, but Babson is really on to something. It's like what's that Holmes lady that
I
was
was gonna
all
say it sounds like the actual like Theranos
yeah.
V2, but
So
the
it's
honest
it's
Theranos.
it's the literally it's the way that Theranos should have been is really
Exactly.
what Babson. But when you look up the eMed site, what do you know? They have a blood testing kit. So the future of blood testing and specialty pharmacy, I'm thinking about you and we're going to be headed to Assembia this year, and I love talking with specialty pharmacy operations, but you organizations, you pharmacist consultants out there, you community pharmacy owners, look into blood testing, bud. I mean, look into blood testing, look into being a place for people to come and ask lots of questions about, hey, what's the long-term impact if I'm on, um, what's one of those medications, Wegovy or,
Yeah,
um,
the GLP-1s.
yeah. So
Yep.
what's the long-term effect on bone density, or what's the long-term effect on my longevity? Is there a way to wean me off of this and then all of a sudden I transform into something more holistic or something more now with the food pyramid being turned literally upside down, like, is this time for pharmacists to rise and to say, hey, here's medication management, here's holistic health, here's diet, here's exercise. Let's stop prescribing, and all you do is, not all you do, of course, it's everything they do because they keep everybody alive with triple checking and double checking. But the dispensing of that med, that's not the future of pharmacy. You know that because of your work in artificial intelligence creation of where that's going from workflows and things that you're doing. But share with us what you think. What do you think of blood testing and the access to the data and clarification of the medications that people are on? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, the pharmacist plays a bigger role than most people think. I mean, even look at that pilot. I mean, that was not pharmacies. That was AI and, doing renewals through AI. What was it? I believe in Utah. Um, I mean, pharmacists can't prescribe or can't do, but the AI can. I mean, that's kind of getting a little wild that they would trust the AI more than the pharmacist. But yeah, I mean, blood testing, holistic health. I mean, there's so many avenues here. Even just the clinical support that's always been in specialty pharmacy. I mean, there's so much more that pharmacists do than just, fill pill bottles and things like that. And the
You
technology
mentioned,
has enabled it. It's really given a lot of the data and a lot of it just facilitates much more communication and much more quicker action. Yeah, here you go.
yeah, you mentioned this to me. Artificial intelligence begins prescribing medications in Utah, and we heard about this several weeks back, maybe 2 weeks back. And then, really, when I've read through this, I don't completely understand what it's going to do. Obviously, there's no way that it's extracting every final check and review of a pharmacist based on the license needing to be present in every prescription that's been reviewed by a pharmacist. But what do you think of this as an evolution in the use of AI?
I mean, I'm surprised how quickly it's moving forward, frankly. And I say that in a good way. I think people have always said the technology isn't going to be a limiting factor in terms of speed. It's going to be, the regulations and kind of just the compliance around it, the legal aspects. I mean, there's so much more than just, hey, the AI can do a lot of cool things. It's like, is it allowed to do all those cool things? I mean, I believe that article was kind of renewals only initially too, which
Yeah.
at the end of the day, a doctor renewal isn't much more than pushing a button in the EHR anyway, especially like, there's renewal transaction sets. So maybe it's not doing that much, but it's certainly like the right direction of getting technology more involved. And I think it's going to expand to the pharmacist. I mean, inevitably, what we're seeing there on the doctor side will be for the pharmacy as well.
Hey, shifting gears, but just staying within TWIRx news is this news came out. The headline is, and this came from Healthcare Dive. You can find more at healthcaredive.com, but the headline is CVS accused of shutting out rival pharmacy hubs in House Judiciary investigation. The company's massive pharmacy benefit manager changed its rules and weaponized audits to ensure independent pharmacies couldn't work with competing pharmacy service companies, the House Republicans said. And then it dives into the brief. Definitely take a look at this. You know, I love what the free markets have done for entire economies and building nations, and the Industrial Revolution and everything that the United States went through. Part of that Industrial Revolution, there were horrible things that were done to human beings, and in the coal furnaces and all of that stuff. So there's always going to be crappy ass people who are going to take advantage of things. But for the most part, and I know that's not an excuse for things that are done to people, because it's not, but the evolution of innovation, there's good and bad that are really a part of everything. And CVS Health had such an opportunity backing up 10 years ago when they really started to get manipulative into Medicare Part D and Medicaid, and starting to scrape more and more of that money, calling it a benefit, calling it medication management, calling it formulary management. and now there's no money left to pay pharmacists for clinical knowledge. There's no money left to pay a dispensing privately owned pharmacy in any of the spaces, specialty, long-term care, or even our community independents. And now we've pulled back the covers. Everybody knows what the truth is. It's right out there in the black and white data that CVS Health, Optum, Express Scripts have all done things purposely to create a non-competitive advantage or a non-competitive situation where they don't have to compete. They don't have to, when you don't have to compete, Sean, if you didn't have to compete with all the other AI companies out there and the developers of software out there, if you never had to compete, your software would be crap because your development software would not have any push to stay competitive. And that's exactly in the free market. That's exactly how the pharmacy benefit managers have become the bane of healthcare, and they just suck out the money in the form of just profit and not where it needs to be applied, which, there's so many things, but I hated seeing that article. So, hey, thanks for bringing it to my attention. That was Sean's fault.
Yeah, I mean, it's a House report so far. So, I mean, this comes around in cycles. We always think they're going to do something and they don't always do. But for sure, they're calling them out. And I think just as an extension, like we said, like, a lot of times it's technology is being stifled, not because the tech isn't capable of doing it. It's because the old guard doesn't want to allow it in. It's because compliance, there's all these other like human barriers. And if they're stifling competition, they're stifling, it even says like, in the report, I think on that PDF, that the House report title is something like how they protected themselves from competition and innovation. And it's like, wow, you're purposely putting resources to try to stifle innovation. So I think as we shine a flashlight on what's not we, but as everyone kind of sees what's really going on and more transparent PBMs and transparent processes take over, you'll see a wave of tech adoption. I mean, you look at those other middle market PBMs, they're so tech forward and tech friendly. There's so much more that they're doing that you wonder why everyone else isn't doing it. And, you got to wonder if they want all that, tech to be as easy as it could be and all that interoperability. Certainly, it doesn't seem like CVS Caremark wants interoperability with independent pharmacies where, there could be better collaboration. So we'll see where this heads. It's interesting, though. My hat's off to the House for doing something in this political climate. I'll stay neutral overall, but I was definitely happy to see them making some progress on the PBM reform and the investigation. So great step forward. Sorry for sharing the article. At least it's a Friday.
No, it's all right. Thank God it's Friday because at least we got the weekend to maybe recover.
Exactly.
Except for those pharmacists and technicians listening right now who probably have to work over the weekend. But it makes me think the quote from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. And that's what's most disappointing to me in the CVSs and the Optums and the organizations who are inside pharmacy. And I've been accused, my entire network has been partially confused. We've lost sponsorships based on people will be like, well, you're so heavy on PBMs. And I'm like, no, we need PBMs. PBMs have their place. Matter of fact, there's a crap ton of PBMs. There's at least a dozen, at least 12 national PBMs that are fiduciary or cost plus or transparent or doing things that are exactly where the value, Capital RX, for example, they're doing things that are helping the employer, helping the benefits manager, helping the cost, helping the patient, much more inclusive. And we're seeing the beginning of the end of the current three PBMs. Their models will not sustain. The Mark Cuban and Congress and people have just dug too deep now. We're like, holy crap, look at all this tax benefit that's supposed to cover people that can't afford the medications, all this tax money that's supposed to cover our seniors, all this tax money that is reserved for specialty disease states that could really help people live and survive better, has been sucked up in the form of freaking profit. And Sean, I'm a capitalist. I want to make some money, and I do make money, through Pharmacy Podcast Network, and it's my livelihood. But if if I were setting something up that was taking advantage of a situation, especially in the form of a tax, imagine if I could find a way to get podcasts taxed and make some make some money, right? But if I were doing it and using it in a way that was just for profiting my publication or myself and not pushing it back to how do we evolve the standard of podcasting and continuing education? How do we advance the profession and what pharmacists are talking about and what conversations they should be a part of? How do we leverage the superstars of our industry and get their names out there? Like it's if you're in a profession, if you're a lifer, you're a lifer, Sean, in being in technology, and if you're a lifer in healthcare tech, and you start doing things that are questionable, that is more about just lining your pockets, most likely with how small this industry is, and especially pharmacy, you're going to get burnt out because people aren't going to do business with you anymore. And that's literally what's happened to the three biggest PBMs is we've uncovered the truth to their massive, massive, massive profits and returns, and people are suffering.
Yeah, I mean, this industry, you can't hide for long. It's that's why no one burns bridges in specialty pharmacy and healthcare and pharmacy in general. I mean, there's just such a community and a brotherhood and sisterhood of, just people taking care of each other, helping out for each other. And, if someone's doing something wrong, be it a vendor or company, whoever, word travels fast and everybody's going to know about it. I would say as a lifer, going back to the 90s, like what the PBM scene looked like before the rise of where we're at. I mean, it was just as bad. It was the Wild West. I mean, it was the employers who were getting, taking the brunt of just blank checks being written. Any prescription that wants to get written, doesn't matter what it is, the employer is going to pay for it. Nobody had any incentive to not just write whatever they wanted. And certainly some cost-cutting measures had to come in. And I mean, I think on the one hand, how much money the PBMs are taking, stealing, pocketing, whatever people could say, all that money was also being wasted. I mean, back in those days, that same money that they're pocketing, that was just going to, it was always being paid by whoever had to pay the bill, whether it was a health plan or an employer. They came in with a noble mission. They did some things right. They certainly lost their way. I think you said, there's a lot of new companies that are ushering in a new age. But we certainly don't want to go back to the Wild West. There's a reason PBMs came about to begin with. And, we'll see where it all heads. But
Yeah.
even those J&J dollar, follow the dollar report that they put out every year, obviously the PBMs are taking a cut, but 340B, the government programs, and I support all of them. I'm not saying anything critical, but as a fact of the matter, they do show that a lot of the money that's being spent is going all over the place. It's not just going to drug companies. It's not just going to pharmacies. It's, it is being wasted everywhere. So there's a lot of things to point to there, absolutely. But I'm all aboard seeing what happened with this report and seeing what happens from here.
Yeah. Um, that's good insights, especially from someone who, when you design systems and software, there's a lot of black and white that goes into that because it's very factual. It either works or it doesn't. It's either going to corrupt later based on something else that you plugged into it, or it's going to be stable, and it's going to, so it's like, I think from your mind and your perspective, it really makes sense the way that even business should be. And business people that are in business, people that are lifers, you're doing what's best for the whole ecosystem. There's no reason that you can't make money at it. But it's got to be cyclical and giving
Yeah.
value back. And yeah, that's just it. Hey, last up on TWIRx news, not sure if you saw this, but this is from across the pond. Pharmacy Business over in London put out a article that says pharma companies embrace AI to speed up clinical trials and regulatory processes. AI helps the pharmaceutical companies to fulfill tedious tasks as well as submissions using less time. This absolutely makes sense to me. Here's where AI lies. They can really speed up accessing information and looking at data over millions of cases of the same, variation, and something that changes very minute in a small percentage. Let's pretend that they do 1 million people on a specific drug, and they saw this tiny, tiny 2% of this horrible outcome, right? Now you're able to kind of basically take that same data and now leapfrog the speed of clinical research, because now you're relying on the data that AI has brought to the table because of all the outcomes of 1 million people. It's like basically saying, wow, that's an opportunity to speed things up, and instead of spending that money all over again, starting from scratch, you could start from start studying the 2% that had an adverse reaction, and really dial into what happened with them and getting more data out of it. But what do you think of this impact in clinical trials?
I mean, that's one of the areas pharmaceuticals are benefiting in a practical way from AI more than almost anyone else in the healthcare ecosystem. I mean, there's so many areas where pharma is using AI right now. And I mean, this is to help. Well, I think you scrolled down, that second bullet point said something as you were scrolling. Look at Novartis, from a selection time from weeks to a 2-hour meeting. I mean, I think that headline right there kind of says it all. I mean, that's what happens. But even like on the formulation side, I've heard of, they're able to, I'm not sure the right word for it, but like create the molecules or synthesize. It's like they're able to hit the mark in like hours, days, weeks, rather than years, where, AI is just looking at this data and it's putting together models, and it's doing so much so quickly that, they're able to bring these drugs to market, not just because they're making manpower, and doing efficiency gains, but even in the research, like AI is finding, better products to build, lack of a better word, you know, so quickly that it's like drugs are coming to market and they are being found, it's crazy how much the pharma is being impacted right now.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Really exciting.
We're going to be talking more about this. We would like to put together this mind share of people that are getting much deeper into using artificial intelligence for different components of the entire pharmacy care ecosystem: pharma, research, clinical trials, and even the specific player. I think of Daniel Plummer dialing into pregnancy. I think of Jenna Quinn in pediatrics, and I'm thinking of Tamara
Yeah.
Rugels in senior care, and so on and so forth, where we now have experts that can start using some of these tools that people like you, Sean, are building to really help accelerate their capacity as a pharmacist that's dialed into very specific things that people go through. And we need the insights of those pharmacists to leverage AI. Shout out to my guys over at Nested Knowledge. We're going to be working on some releases coming up, the evidence-based podcasting concept. And Sean, we're going to be working with JB Consulting in the future too, just to do more extraction of data and resource and reference and connection by the use of artificial intelligence. So what other organizations have you ever heard about doing stand-up jobs in specifically around pharmacy care in any of the sectors?
I mean, I see just there's probably more to even think to mention. Like there's so many AI companies. Go to any trade show, go in the exhibit booth, and it's like you can't throw something without hitting an AI booth or hitting some kind of a demo. There's just so much. I don't want to say it's becoming a commodity. That's not fair to say, but it is going to really be not like, can AI do it? Like AI will be able to do it. People will have a million choices. They can do it themselves. It'll already be like, how are people choosing to use it? And like they said, the pharmacist who uses AI will replace the pharmacist who doesn't use AI, or the company, rather than, AI replacing everyone. Hopefully it's the people who are leveraging it are, I don't want to say replacing, but they're the ones who are going to thrive, in the economy and in the environment where, imagination and things like that are really the only limiting factor. Really, really exciting times.
Yeah, it really is. So we have a episode coming out on TWIRx with JM or TJM Labs. which is an AI group that is doing more about workflow, and they're kind of dialing into different things in the independent community pharmacy space. But there'll be definitely an organization that I kind of want to mix in so that we have a Knights of the Round Table of organizations that are trusted not only in the strengths that they bring to the table in the reference and usage of artificial intelligence, but more specifically, I think of like you, Sean, and your group. You have such a niche in specialty pharmacy over the years where you were it wasn't you weren't even calling it AI back when you were doing it. It was more like workflow, custom workflow, but you could really see as the beginnings of using AI and artificial intelligence. Is probably more like artificial reference back then to reference data and stuff like that. But yeah, you guys have come a long way. It's pretty neat to see where you are today. When did you start really dialing into specialty pharmacy?
Our first project was, I think, 1998. We were building a workflow automation and optimization tool for an infusion site down in Delaware, and they were explaining to us, all the different workflows and why, they're doing more than just filling prescriptions. And they explained kind of what we do. They didn't say specialty, but, they were explaining the clinical management and how after it goes out, we still have to call the patient and we have these reminders to reach out and questions we ask. And they were explaining therapy management to us back then. So we were building tools out, back then to help, with prior auth automation when that started coming out and, all the things everyone has seen. But yeah, it's been a great journey. I mean, it's such a fun, rewarding industry to be in. I mean, the work, it lines people's pockets, like you said, it's capitalist, but really at the end of the day, I mean, it's patients, it's pharmacists, it's caregivers, it's families. I mean, there's a lot of great things that can, warm the heart to say, within the pharmacy industry as a whole. And when, my team's staying up late and writing lots of code and automating something, sure, that's fun, that's awesome. We're all challenged by it. But when you actually see the result and family members, their children are getting medication sooner, in some cases the same day, not like weeks or months later, because we're just smashing these barriers, to access and these things that just took so much time. Technology's moving it forward at every step of the way so that people don't have to wait weeks and months to start a therapy. I mean, you used to hear that and just blew your mind how that could happen. And it still happens, but technology is really accelerating, in so many good ways, the patient experience and also for the caregivers and the family. So our company here at JB, we always think about the caregivers, the family, the patients, and that's obviously why we're here. I know every other pharmacist, that's how they feel as well.
All right, so you have to promise to get back on TWIRx. Let's dig into let's build another conversation with someone else that's out there that's doing it, using it, and then also the tools that you're developing in specialty pharmacy, Sean. Let's get a couple of your pharmacy clients to come on and really talk about how this impacts workflow, patient care, the dreaded prior authorization processes. Hey, if you're watching us live on LinkedIn, on Instagram, YouTube, thanks so much for watching TWIRx today. Today's TWIRx is going to be brought to you by multiple organizations, but a shout out to IPC, Independent Pharmacy Cooperative. I was talking to Marc Essensa. You're going to hear that interview, I think, coming next. He's coming in the studio, going to be talking with us. Marc Essensa, the CEO of IPC, this is a guy that I want you to meet up with, Sean, when we're all at the Assembia 20, the Access 26 Summit. This is like my Super Bowl business drill down in specialty pharmacy, and it's one of my most favorite conferences. You cannot beat the food there. A shout out to our team over at Assembia and what they do and how hard they work. Shout out to Chris Benz. He's just amazing. But talk to us a little bit about Access 26. What do you want to do when you and I are going to have a segment on the show floor? But what do you want to accomplish at Access this year?
I can't wait. I mean, this is like you said, this is the Super Bowl. Everyone loves it out there. And I think just hearing what people are actually doing, like last year, there was a lot of people talking about what they plan to do, what they're hoping to do. A lot of follow the leader in terms of tech adoption. I can't wait to kind of talk to some of the companies about what they have been doing in the last year. Um, we got Charlie Sheen and Elvis
You know,
Duran.
do you know
Kind
what's
of speaks
funny?
for
Like
itself.
when I see superstars, showing up at Access to pharmacy, and they get some really good people. I'll give it to them. They do. Do
They
you
certainly
know?
did.
I would rather meet up with Sheila Arquette, or I would rather meet up with Harry Travis, or I would rather meet up with you than get an opportunity to talk with Elvis Duran. Not that he's not cool and what he's done and everything, but like when I go to these business conferences, like I want to get in the heads and I want to talk to the movers and shakers inside specialty pharmacy. And Charlie Sheen, I mean, if I could get a photo op, that might be cool, but that's not the guy I want to talk to when I'm
Yeah. I mean, it's the good news is you can do both. You can still talk to Sheila and Harry because they'll all still be out there. Um, I mean, hey, they get star power is what Assembia has always done. They do a great job. Um, you got Fish actually bookending at the Sphere too. The band Fish for the Fish
Wow,
heads out there.
I did not
Um,
know that.
yeah, they're going to be at the Sphere the weekend before and the weekend after for anyone who's going to be in Vegas. But yeah, Chris Benz, I mean, he does such a great job. He's a friend of mine as well.
He's amazing. He
Yeah,
is
he does
amazing.
such a good job. I mean, that thing, it wouldn't be what it is without him. And I mean, I always joke like I see him on the way out when the show's over, and I swear he's already working on the next year's show. He like
Dude,
says he's gonna go take some time and relax, but he doesn't. You can tell he's already doing it. So
he
he
literally
doesn't he
does.
never yeah, and there's George Bush. I mean, Brett Baer, look at all these guys. So they
Yeah.
bring out the star power for sure, but it's a great opportunity to meet with, all the stakeholders. If there's anyone you want to meet with, they'll be out there. So I can't wait to sit down, pharma clients, the pharmacies, all the tech vendors, just really check in and see what's going on, get some good food and, have a great time out there.
It is. It's a very good time. The party that they have is a big deal. I always enjoy it. I enjoy seeing people. But yeah, Assembia is coming. If you are going to Assembia 2026 Access to Pharmacy, April 26th through 30th at the Wynn in Encore, Las Vegas, we will be set up. We will be pressed. We will be hot. We will be talking about all kinds of subjects. If you want to get involved in the show, reach out to us. Go to pharmacypodcast.com, go to the contact page. Let me know that you're going to be there and tell me what it is that you're doing in the specialty pharmacy space, because that's why we cover these shows. We always interview people who are talking about that cutting edge and what's working and what's not working and how to improve it. And yeah, talk with us. Meet up with Sean too. Sean, you'll have a segment there that we'll be digging into some of the things that you're exploring.
Yeah, I'll be out there. I'd love to meet with anybody, come meet up. And Todd, I can't wait to see you out there too. It'll be a lot of fun.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, that's it for TWIRx News. We're going to take a quick break, and you're going to hear from Marc Essensa here with IPC. See you, Sean.
Thanks for having me.
This episode is sponsored by Independent Pharmacy Cooperative, widely known as IPC. Established in 1983, IPC is the nation's largest group purchasing organization owned by independent pharmacy. With a mission of maximizing the success of community pharmacists, IPC works to provide members with access to effective programs and services designed to enhance profitability for independent pharmacy. Read more about our mission by checking out our website at ipcrx.com. That's ipcrx.com.
Hey, and on This Week in Pharmacy, lots going on, kicking off what is this? This is, I lose track of time with how fast it goes. Today is the 30th. Oh my goodness gracious. Friday, January 30th, the last This Week in Pharmacy of January 2026. Where did this month go? This is incredible. I think with the Pharmacy 50 Awards, we really spend so much time in celebrating that and reviewing the connections of some of the most influential people in pharmacy. That by the time I get to the end of the month, I forgot that that we're here and we're heading into February. I'd like to welcome back to This Week in Pharmacy the CEO of Independent Pharmacy Cooperative, IPC, my friend Marc Essensa. Marc, how are you?
Oh, good to see you, and Happy New Year to you and all your viewers and listeners. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Lots happening in such a short amount of time. I think that it's February already. I can't believe that that it's gone that fast. We're in the midst of Snowmageddon here in southwestern Pennsylvania. How are you guys holding up where you're at? I think your whole family's off today because of the weather.
Yeah, we've definitely had an ice storm. I live in Dallas, although our corporate offices are in Madison, Wisconsin, but both locations are having challenges. But I've got the whole family home, and it's been nice as much as I travel to actually have the kids in the house. And although they're always wondering what Dad's doing in his office all day.
All right, let's get into business. So this week in pharmacy, we'd very much like to talk about the future of independent community pharmacy, some of the focuses that you amplify, the success of our independent community pharmacies throughout the nation. But before that, there was some news that just came out in this week in pharmacy, and that was the story of the payment card settlement. And you guys did a great job on the blog. I'm going to have this blog link in the show notes where it says the payment card settlement, a practical guide. But give us an overview of this, Marc.
I mean, we're very excited that we've been listened to by the courts and getting the settlement down for independent pharmacy, where we've been cut out of these payment cards in the past. And what we've tried to do is on our own website is exactly how do you log in and start directing your funds back to you. We've already had a couple of manufacturers that we've already received notice exactly what the dollar figures are back at the IPC office, because we also get it not only at the individual level but at the corporate level. But what we're trying to do is get the word out to make sure that you go out and you claim the money that is owed to you because of these practices that were being done that were unfair to independent pharmacy.
Yeah, I think of businesses that are doing an increasing amount of business through their credit cards and debit cards, and for something like this to happen, it's like just one more one more struggle that you have to deal with. But for them to come to a claims and being able to get dollars back, that's so important. I'm glad that you guys are reporting on this. This practical guide takes you through step by step of what you should be doing as an independent pharmacy owner. So once again, I'm going to have this link in the show notes. But let's get to more fun things to talk about. I love talking about business development. I love talking about cash-based programs of where a community pharmacy is engaging their community through services that are needed. IPC has been supportive of all of your members in doing such things. But what's at the top of your mind as we go into February 2026 for our community pharmacies, Marc?
Well, what's really been prevalent out in the marketplace, and we're seeing this all over social media, you're seeing this through the government, but is a lot of this direct-to-consumer based marketing that is happening right now. A lot of that, is both an opportunity and a risk for independent pharmacy, where we get disintermediated to these mail orders, because there is some massive mail orders and hubs that are being put out there, hundreds of millions of dollars being spent on these build outs by these PE firms. But what we believe is, and what we've been pitching to our manufacturer community, and we've been working hard on this since we were at ECRM brand here a couple of weeks ago in Austin, Texas, and we're starting to get some traction with the manufacturers, is there a direct to community rather than a direct to consumer program? And typically what we were working on and where we've had the most traction is in two forms. One is being able to get a brand manufacturer to start to give us actual discounts or actual contracts at retail. So if you're a retailer and you're able to get a contracted price on a brand drug, and then you're still able to apply your WAC minus discount with your primary wholesaler and stack it, then all of a sudden, when you're at AWP minus 24, which is a typical reimbursement, you can actually be in the black on those types of brand prescriptions. So that's one portion of it. The other portion is that disintermediating the PBMs out of this chain is these direct to consumer cards where there'll be a buy down of the product. So in other words, you've seen all over the place these GLP-1s being sold at $149, even though WAC we know is at $1,300. Well, there are mechanisms that we're currently working on where we'll be able to introduce those types of pricings in community pharmacy, and through a specific bin, in the adjudication side, on the cash side, we can buy those down and avoid the PBMs and be able to get those prices out to the consumers and still have those particular drugs at a profit for the pharmacy. As we see more and more of these things coming along with TRUMP-Rx, we don't know how that's going to come to fruition, but we believe it's going to be a direct-to-consumer model, and being able to play in that space, have the logistics, have the infrastructure for independent pharmacy. That's kind of what we're doing back at the office to make sure that we're ready for this and that we can take advantage of as it comes along.
Yeah, I like the direct community. The news that came out a couple of weeks ago with 9 of the largest pharma companies ink deals with Trump to lower drug prices. There's a lot of misconceptions of what this means, but it's the community pharmacy that already has a trust and relationship with their community and their people to demystify stuff like this, and then bring them back to the community pharmacy and say, hey, we can set up models in our own community to make sure that you're taking medications safely, but you're getting great pricing based on the relationships that they have with their community pharmacy. And there's going to be a continued mix between our traditional transactions that are backed by a PBM executing the funds, and then the realm of the cash-based and the opportunity to grow your cash-based and the opportunity to grow memberships. I think of memberships in healthcare counseling, in diabetes and hypertension, and different, maybe a high blood pressure, glucose monitoring, how to best use your glucose monitor. Whatever it is, there is opportunities that, IPC has always had these programs that are supportive to community pharmacies to do more, to extend more healthcare services through the transaction, so that it's not just a commodity. It's saying, hey, your prescription is just the start of this. And especially if you're in a chronic condition, to do more with the communications that you have with your community. What are some ways that you can talk to the listener right now? How should they be communicating best with their community to once again demystify the news that might be confusing, or just general communications to stay in touch with their people in their community?
Well, I think a lot of these independent pharmacies many times are at times even the social hubs or the gathering points in a lot of these smaller communities. So it's a matter of just having those conversations one-on-one with those patients as to what's coming down, especially as they recognize somebody coming in with a high copay that, hey, you know what, there's now a brand discount buy down on this particular drug that it may not count towards your yearly maximum out of pocket, but it'll certainly save you money, in the short term here, and really going through and helping to manage the members that are coming in to look for the guidance, not only of the clinical guidance from the pharmacy, but also what's the financial guidance, because the ubiquitousness of these discount cards, you're spending almost as much time trying to adjudicate and put somebody on the right buy plan at the counter as you are on the right medication and making sure they're adherent to it. The other thing is that what we want to do is we want to continue to make sure that we got these adherence markers out there in the marketplace. So we have at IPC a new program that was a pilot out in New Jersey, where we were working specifically with one provider that was a Part D plan, where they were looking for help specifically on their patient population that was non-adherent, and they gave us the independent pharmacies almost 800 prescriptions of patients in December that were non-adherent to their program. And by the end of December, we had well over 600 of those patients back on a regimen and doing what they were supposed to be doing as far as making sure they're taking their medications. that not only gets the pharmacy, the patient interactions. There's also revenue chains that come along with that for that particular pharmacy, but it also helps the Part D plan in making sure that they're securing their star rating to make sure that their adherence bills are being taken care of, and working collaboratively with some of these organizations as to where are the value chains in the pockets of these big payers that makes sense to them, that they may not have these interactions directly with independent pharmacy or any pharmacy for that matter, that we're starting to give them programs and services where we can actually impact things such as star ratings and patient outcomes.
Mark, it's funny to think that big organizations that drill down into local representation value the relationships that the community pharmacies have with their patients and how that means better healthcare overall. We've always talked about our community pharmacies reaching out to their local state representatives on a yearly basis to give them updates of what's happening, either through a tour or through a legislative day or something. But doing that same thing for your insurers, especially if there's local representation, to bring them into your pharmacy and say, here's what's going on if they work with them as a payer. It's the human to human connection that all of a sudden people are like, wow, there's ideas that start going off, and then these payers start leaning into these community pharmacies that have these strong relationships. I think that's important. I think the creativity that's coming out of your team and what you guys are constantly seeing, because you're not just seeing it from one community. IPC is seeing it from the entire nation, and being able to see what's working in San Francisco versus what's working in Camden, New Jersey. And I think that there's a lot of data and there's a lot of qualifiable ways of accelerating success, especially with the mixture of direct to consumer and cash based, and what Mark Cuban is doing. And so the public ends up scratching their head a lot, not really understanding what's going on. And I think that trust that's already there is so important for education and communication.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things is that every channel partner needs to be educated as to what's happening at community pharmacy. So, for instance, here Friday afternoon, I have a manufacturers meeting, and it's specifically around why there's script abandonment in independent pharmacy sometimes, or that they get switched over to another formulary or therapy because of the economics of their particular branded product. And they have no understanding that, well, you do realize that, the PBMs are reimbursing at AWP minus 24 or 26. So unless you're buying from your wholesaler at WAC minus 12, which doesn't exist anywhere, those are always underwater. So of course, these trusted advisors out in the community are going to make sure that the doctors are writing for the scripts that make sense for the patient, make sense for the pharmacy to be able to support these patients through their health journey. So between manufacturers, lawmakers, payers, employers, all those types of things, it's a matter of never stopping the education and never stop flying the flag as to exactly what it is, because a lot of people have absolutely no clue as to what's happening out in the marketplace, because it's a very complex thing.
It is. It's confusing, and with confusion comes mistrust, and therein lies a way to capitalize on your relationship with your community as a pharmacy owner, reaching out to a mayor, reaching out to a state rep, reaching out to a health community center. Grow beyond pharmacy advertising to attract new growth with IPC. There's a place on the website of the IPC cooperative where you can go and you can find some guidance about marketing and about communications. The team at IPC has a deep understanding and knowledge, not only in general, but even regional, and being able to tap into something that's happening regionally. But take advantage of that. If you're listening and you don't have that kind of relationship with a buying group or an organization that you're working with, check them out and see if there's someone on the team that can bring some light and a new way of turning a new program that will equal new foot traffic to your pharmacy, as well as new engagement. And those relationships and building is so important for growth, Mark. That's why I love being in touch with so many of your team members, and how important it is to have the right mix of people on your team between government relations and business development and marketing and account management, and even the warehouse of what you guys are doing. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's been definitely a journey the last several years as we try to reimagine what IPC is from being a volume aggregator to being a pharmacy services company. I think we've taken a lot of steps in making sure that we're able to give our members practical items that they can implement within workflow that will, affect the bottom line, will increase patient traffic, will improve reimbursements. But it's a continuing journey. So, I mean, 2026 is a very unique year. I think the IRA drugs at the beginning of this month, and now that we're 30 days in, um, we were looking at it being, quite potentially even catastrophic, but it seems to have been quite muted, and it seems to be working. The things that are on Beacon seem to be showing up, and luckily, knock on wood, we weren't impacted by any of the WAC decreases where we were sitting on any inventory where we ended up losing money. And I know we advertised that heavily to the members to make sure they did the same. So those are the types of things where you've got the IRA drugs, you got the next set of IRA drugs coming in, you've got the Trump RX coming in, which will be a buy down program. A lot of these things will be rebated on this MFN, or most favored nation, with the drugs that the administration is talking about. So there's going to be implications on your GCR, from the IRA drugs. There's going to be certainly cash flow implications from some of these other programs where you're going to have to be making sure that you're putting in for these rebates or buy downs. But it's never not changing. But I think that what we're trying to do at IPC is help everybody navigate through it and create programs to maximize the benefit to the stores, but also become an important partner to manufacturers, insurers, and whatnot. So we actually get paid for what we do, and that's kind of what we're trying to do. And part of that is, as you well know, with the latest bill that hopefully passes the Senate here, we do have a Medicare Part D implication to that, which will be fairly positive for us. It's got some any willing provider status. It's got recognizes reasonable and relevant drug pricing, reimbursements, delinks some of the compensation that's out there with the PBMs. So it's not PBM reform, but certainly we're excited that it's a step forward in the right direction. And we continue to fight PBM reform where we can get rid of spread pricing, get the NADAC pricing in for pharmacies, as well as at some point getting into provider status where we can start to manage at the top of our license and become an important part of the healthcare destination in America, because we are the most accessible part of the ecosystem. I mean, most people see their pharmacist at least once a month, and maybe their doctors once a quarter or twice a year. So we're trying to make sure that we give everybody the tools, as well as the legislation behind it, to be able to manage to the top of their licenses, as they do in other countries.
Absolutely. Thank you, Marc. Thank you so much for giving us an update and preparing us for 2026. I cannot wait to see you at some of the upcoming national conferences that are going to be popping up. I can't believe how fast things are coming. We know that you'll be at Sembia. Your team will be obviously at the NCPA. I think we're going to be reconvening in the IPC booth at the Big McKesson show. And now it's
Idea Share there in June.
Yeah, Idea Share. That's the idea. But I also wanted to make an announcement that we have a special new team member of IPC coming on, who I've known since 2013 through LinkedIn, which is Shelley Bailey, in your strategy department. And I would just want to say congratulations to Shelley. I can't wait to have her on this week in pharmacy and dial in and connect with her and get some of her ideas. I think that's a strong person to have on your team.
Absolutely. She's an independent pharmacy owner at a time. She owned a very large specialty pharmacy. She was on the National Advisory Board for independent pharmacies for McKesson. She's had her own business of doing in vitro fertilization, and she's been a consultant for a lot of years, and just a great talent. And we're excited to have her join the team here at IPC.
We're excited too. Can't wait to once again have her on the show. So we have targeted you, Shelley. A shout out to Shelley Bailey. You're coming on TWIRx. We've got to get to a TWIRx event for you. But Marc, this has been special. Thank you so much for being on This Week in Pharmacy.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all that you do on a daily basis and a weekly basis for all those independent pharmacists that are out there to keep them informed and keep our chins up.
Absolutely. Take a look at ipcrx.com. Once again, that's ipcrx.com. And we thank you, IPC, for sponsoring today's TWIRx. And we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
Running a pharmacy means juggling a lot. Patient care, inventory, and now compliance. That's where MatchRx comes in. MatchRx is the online marketplace where independent pharmacies buy and sell their overstock safely, quickly, and affordably. You can also shop from 11 plus trusted secondary wholesalers all in one place. We're here to make pharmacy ownership easier, connecting you to savings, trusted partners, and simple tools that help you stay compliant with confidence. MatchRx, where pharmacy meets trust, compliance, and opportunity. Visit MatchRx.com to learn more. That's MatchRx.com.
Hey, welcome back to TWIRx, This Week in Pharmacy, January 30th. I hope you, if you are working this weekend, I hope you stay warm. It's going to get frigid. I think tonight, Friday, is -8. -8. Negative freaking 8 here in southwestern Pennsylvania in the Pittsburgh area. Hey, I have a interview with someone at the last minute I was able to get on This Week in Pharmacy and take advantage of LinkedIn and of Instagram. The power of social media when it's used correctly is just freaking amazing. And I looked into Saki Patel and her background in the formation of something called Cura Voice and how she's going to be leveraging AI and of course consultancy internally with her partner to build this system that helps pharmacy students, young pharmacists, learn better communication skills. This freaking idea set my head on fire. So I'm so excited to welcome to TWIRx today, Saki. It's so good to see you. Welcome to TWIRx.
Hi, so good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Can you TWIRx? You can't TWIRx? No.
No,
Do it. Not going to do it. Maybe someday when we're all together, maybe at 8,
one of these days.
2026, we'll go out to the club or something like that. In sunny California. Can't wait. I need some sunny California. -8. What's the coldest it is where you're at right now?
60s.
Oh, shut
I
up.
hate to rub salt in the wound, but yeah, when you said -8, I was like, yeah, that couldn't be us.
My poor puppies will go out in the morning to go to the bathroom first thing in the morning, and they're not even out there, not even 2 minutes. They're like right back to the door. They're like, this is too cold. It's so good.
I bet.
My preface, and you being a co-founder of Cura Voice, you're at UCI Pharmaceutical Sciences. This is your third year going in 2026. You're going to graduate, what, 2027?
Yes.
Okay. So goodness gracious, how are you building a company and freaking going to pharmacy school? Like, do you need any more stuff to think about and to do? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely been a process. But I think it helps that I'm extremely passionate about what I'm building. So pretty much my free time that I spend on doing this, like, it doesn't really feel like work. So I do appreciate that.
Well, what I'm excited about is how much this makes sense in this age, and so lots of discussion and lots of debate on a group of people in media and public relations. I talk with him and we post about how AI is going to impact the realm of communications and how someone like myself, who Gen Xer, I was born without the internet. I integrated it into my life. Now all of a sudden I'm using as much of it as I can. I'm not a programmer. I wish I was. But it's interesting to see that this is such a good time to slow everybody down with so much access to so much information and say, how are you going to communicate with someone that is very scared? They're at, they're in the emergency room. You're an emergency room pharmacist. Is there like a lesson that I could listen to from other emergency room pharmacists that could be like, hey, here's what to remember in these cases about communications or dealing with patients, or so open up about the philosophy of Cura Voice, and I'm blown away by it. I think it's amazing. So definitely tell us.
Yeah, for sure. So where Cura Voice kind of started, it was very much built from my experience as a pharmacy student. My co-founder and I are very good friends, and I was studying one day with him, not together because, he's a computer science guy, but I was studying around him, and, he was looking at my notes and he goes, hey, there has to be a better way for you to practice this, right? Like, how are you supposed to know what to say in your verbal exams and your OSCEs if you guys don't even like regularly do that in class? And I was like, yeah, but it is what it is. Like, that's kind of just how it's been. You practice for your OSCE, you take it, it's over. And he was like, well, what if I built a voice bot that simulated a patient? Would that help you? And I said, I mean, I don't think you can, but sure, you could try, right? And, a few days later, he comes back with a very, rudimentary prototype of, this patient simulator. And I used it a few times and I thought, wow, like this, if I had this earlier when I was doing my OSCEs, my P1 year, this would have made it so much less intimidating. And if I had this practice before I went on my IPPE rotations, this would have made talking to patients way less intimidating because, you can have all the knowledge in the world, and school does an excellent job of teaching you everything, right? Teaching you all the drug interactions and teaching you all the side effects and all the wonderful things we need to know as pharmacy professionals, but we don't get a lot of practice on how to say those things, right? When a patient asks you, how does my Ozempic work? I can't tell them it's a GLP-1, right? They're not going to know what to do with that information. And obviously, as students, sometimes I think we're not challenged enough to think of these things in layman terms and to think of them in a way where we can explain it to patients. So we took this idea with Cura Voice. We entered a few demo competitions in entrepreneurship, and that was kind of my first intro into the world of entrepreneurship, was these like startup competitions. We got some funding through some of those. We were lucky enough to secure that. And so we've just kind of been building the tool ever since, and we've been getting more pharmacy students on the platform, and they've been seeing a true benefit with having something like this, a very low stakes environment to practice their patient interactions. And the tool has even grown to not just be a patient simulator, but it's also grown to be a study platform where students can upload their notes and they can get custom study materials. They can get quizzes that don't just ask recall questions. They're all case-based questions. 55-year-old male comes into the pharmacy, has XYZ symptoms. What do you do? And there's a bunch of different ways that we attune to different learning styles. So we have quizzes, flashcards, mind maps, SOAP notes. So it does generate custom SOAP notes based on whatever lectures you upload. And then of course the simulation feature. So you can either practice with very specific ones catered to your slide deck, or you can just, go nuts and go random, and you can type in your own scenario if you really want to. And the tool gives practice with both clinical scenarios and non-clinical scenarios. So, sometimes patients ask, why did I pay this much for copay this in January, but I didn't pay anything last month, right? And so it's a skill being able to explain those things. And I think that's definitely not a portion we really get talked to enough about in school. So I think having that kind of on the side as adjunct practice can definitely help us prepare for the real world. So that's kind of Cura Voice's origin story and where we stand as a company right now, pretty much.
I love it. Saki, this is visionary, and I think it could continue to grow. I see applications for this and so many learning instances, not only for pharmacy students and for new pharmacy students, but for our pharmacy technicians, and understanding how to handle certain difficult cases. And, if you exercise a muscle and then you go out for competition, or you go out for a triathlon, and you've done a lot of training and a lot of stretching, guess what? You're probably not going to get injured, most likely, because your body's ready for it, and your performance for that actual event is huge. And that's exactly what Cura Voice is. It's an exercise machine to hit a portion of what it means to be a pharmacist in probably just about any setting, because I can see this. We go to every conference under the sun for specialty pharmacy, for community, for long-term care, for technology, and even the big events like HLTH Health, which it's a mashup of every person, even the financing organizations and the big businesses and the VC companies. But this makes sense, and this is coming from your perspective, which is very important, because you're doing it from, hey, this is what I was going through at the time. And like you said, imagine that at P1 level, you already, had something like this, which you could feed and have it feed back to you extra questions from a lesson that you just learned, and having the voice start interacting with that data. So this is brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So you told me before you came into the studio that you're headed to APHA 2026. So tell our listeners where you're going to be and how they can meet up with you if they're going to go.
Yes, so we'll be in Los Angeles for APHA 2026. We'll be at booth 823 in the exhibitor hall. So if you are going, please stop by. I would love to say hi and just talk to you about the tool and, whatever else you want to talk about. I just love meeting other pharmacy people, really. So yeah, come see us if you have the time.
That's awesome. So what part of the country are you in right now?
I'm in Irvine, California, so SoCal.
So this is how far for you of a trip?
If traffic is forgiving, about 45 minutes.
See, that's nice. I'm from Pittsburgh, so we have a huge conference center down, in the downtown, and no one ever comes to Pittsburgh in the pharmacy world. Like I always have to go. The closest conferences I get are if there's one in Harrisburg, which is usually the Pennsylvania Pharmacists Association, or maybe like Columbus or Cleveland that is about 2 hours away. And if I can drive to a conference, it's my favorite, because I don't have to put up with airports. I don't have to put up with the bag stuff, and I get to carry more stuff. And so I'd much rather drive.
Oh yeah, 100%.
All right. Well, I so excited that you got to come on This Week in Pharmacy. You have to promise me that you'll be coming back to TWIRx in the future to talk more with us.
Yes, for sure. We'll be back.
We'll be right back as well, so hang on.
Feeling lost with the complexities of pharmacy accounting?
In pharmacy today, there's so many different, variables and issues that impact the pharmacy books, records, accounting, the profitability of the store, so forth. There's different components of pharmacy that have its own nuances from an accounting standpoint. And so it's tricky. There's no doubt about it.
Ready to take your pharmacy to the next level but don't know where to start? Sykes & Company is here to help. Introducing the RX Assessment. With the RX Assessment, the pharmacy CPAs and advisors at Sykes will do a deep dive into your accounting and tax situation and give you the action steps you need to take your pharmacy to the next level.
If you're interested in, working with a team who understands the industry and how the accounting and tax should really be in a pharmacy, this is your chance to get a under the hood check of what's going on and getting the feedback of any issues or concerns or, again, things we think you're doing really well with.
Get the financial checkup your pharmacy needs and head over to sykes-cpa.com or call 252-482-7644.
Hey, welcome back to This Week in Pharmacy, and what a day it's been. Holy cow. It's the weekend. I hope you pharmacists listening, I hope you're taking time to get some rest. It's chilly cold here in Western Pennsylvania. I think I woke up this morning to -2, and I have 3 corgis, and we have a baby corgi right now. He's only about 16 months. Or is it 16 weeks? He's not that young. Has to be months. Anyway, so I'm teaching him to go outside with the other 2 adult corgis. It's so easy to potty train dogs that can follow other dogs. And I don't know if anyone has a puppy right now, but if you can team up with a adult dog, it takes, I think it takes training to a much more accelerated level. But my one middle-aged corgi, she's about 5 or 6. She held her paw up this morning while she was outside, and I've never seen her do that. And it was because of how freaking cold it was outside this morning. So if you're dealing with the cold, know that I'm thinking about you, and we tell us what you went through. Send us some pictures of shoveling your walkway. It's a way to get through it. I like the personalization of what our network has created. Thank you so much for all of your feedback from the Pharmacy 50 Awards. We're getting so much attention from LinkedIn and through Instagram. Thank you so much for recognizing people in our profession that are really changing the game and really trying to do more with less. That's what our independent communities are going through. That's what some of our health systems and hospitals are going through. They have to turn over high quality care with less resources and sometimes staffing. So it's changing. I see 2026 is going to be a great year. Hey, I want to talk about change. I want to talk about expertise today. And if you listened in on the last several months, I think starting in July of 2025, the Pharmacy Podcast Network has been talking more and more and featuring more people, more pharmacists who are dialing into contraception and birth control and how important that is, especially with some of the shutdown that we saw happening with Planned Parenthoods throughout the country. I don't really care at all what your politics are. I'm more concerned with where is our people, where are women, where are men, where are our families accessing contraception consultancy and oversight. And I was like, what better provider who already has access to all the knowledge around other medications that patient might be going through, or their family or whatever, that could impact so many things in their life, but now put birth control in their hands, and especially where they're able to prescribe. So I'm really excited about this whole concept, and we're going to have more and more content on dialing into the clinical, the research, the technology that's going to be involved, the engagement, the education. So stay tuned to more Pharmacy Podcast Network and This Week in Pharmacy. But on This Week in Pharmacy, I'm welcoming Dr. Jenny Newland onto the show from the birth control pharmacist community. Welcome, Jenny.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So Sally is a hero of mine. She was the first pharmacist. Sally Raffi, Dr. Raffi brought us much of the information that helped kick us off with understanding how more pharmacists, how more community pharmacy, how more consultant pharmacists can get involved in contraception and family planning. And like I said, doesn't it make sense as a PharmD to use, and a pharmacist to use all of that other information points about a patient's total health? And now we dial into contraception. Expand on your vision of how a pharmacist can blow that up.
Yeah, I think pharmacists are really well positioned. There's over 350 different FDA-approved birth control. So who would know better about what's best for an individual patient than drug experts? Because there are so many different options that each have their own little nuances and, things that may make them the best choice for a patient or not. And so with my work with birth control pharmacists, we're really focused on working with people on the ground who are providing care and figuring out what do they need to be able to do this. Because previous research has shown the majority of pharmacists think this is a good idea. They want to provide access for their patients. They're very interested in it. They have the educational background and preparation, but the problem is not many are doing it. So we're really interested in kind of partnering with those who are providing care and figuring out what is it that you need to be able to actually put this into action?
All right, let's talk about the research side of it, because you are the director of research for the birth control pharmacist, which is freaking cool. Shout out to our pharmacists out there who are wanting to make a career change, or pharmacy students who are thinking, I'd love to go into research. I want you to listen in to what Jenny has to share, and I also want you to connect with her on LinkedIn. So if you go to LinkedIn, put in Jenny, and it's Newlon, it's Newlon. Connect with her, let her know that you heard her on This Week in Pharmacy. But talk to us about the research side of this.
Yeah, so one of the first things that I did with birth control pharmacist was there was funding opportunity from the CDC, and the CDC was really wanting to figure out how to implement pharmacists prescribed birth control. And so what we did was we put together a study where we actually spoke with a number of different stakeholders. So we talked to pharmacists, we talked to staff, we talked to pharmacy owners, we talked to pharmacy executives, and we were trying to figure out, what do you need to be able to provide this service? And then out of all the ideas that you have, which seem the most feasible? Because we really wanted our research to translate into action, which is sometimes a gap that we kind of see coming out of academia. We see lots of research that looks into all these great things and we learn amazing things, but then there's kind of that gap where things aren't always being translated into practice. And so we wanted to see, of all the ideas of how we can actually implement this service, which seem most feasible to you. So from that, we were able to collect some really actionable items, and some of the things that came out of that, we then moved on into our next phase of research, which we're currently doing, which is to actually build those resources for people and put it into practice in the real world. So we're actually going to be launching a software soon, and pharmacists will be using that software, and we're going to see the impact that that has on patients' access to care, as well as pharmacists' comfort with providing a service, like how easily they are able to integrate it into their workflow and address all those barriers that we've seen prior.
So Jenny, we're noticing the rise of the consultant pharmacist out there. When I first knew what I thought consultant pharmacist was, and this is the way that it was originally, was, hey, you're in long-term care pharmacy, you're taking care of our seniors, you dial into dementia, or you dial into joint issues, and now you become this expert, which is freaking amazing. And shout out to Dr. Tamara Rugels, who's our podcaster that's all about senior care. I love it. However, the consultant pharmacist of today is getting into balancing integrative medicine in the pharmaceutical lines. They're getting into healthcare coaching, which now makes sense, because now it's not only it's taking into account your asthma medication or your diabetes or something. So then I heard about Jenna Quinn, Dr. Quinn, dialing into pediatrics, and so when you start dialing in specifically into birth control and to build the trust, pharmacists very trusted anyway, but now you have research that can be accessed by a pharmacist or a physician or a specialist, and that's a big part of trust building. It's also a big part of the evolution of what pharmacists are going to be doing in the future. Pharmacists today, some of them will never touch a medication or never dispense a medication. It has to do with the ongoing impact of a certain substance, or the pharmacological or the pharmacogenomics or the allergy or the whatever it is, the testing that's going to be coming in. Would you expand upon where you see the opportunity for our consultant pharmacists going in the realm of contraception?
Yeah, I think that instead of looking at birth control as its own isolated service, I do think looking at it as an isolated service might be the easiest way for many independent pharmacies to start providing the service. But I think if you want to be more specialized, I think there's definitely opportunity to look at the patient more holistically. It's not just birth control, but if they need birth control, the first easiest step is, should they have advanced provision emergency contraception? That may be needed. Also looking at vaccinations. Are they, have they had the HPV vaccine? Are there other risk factors or other things that they should be looking into? If they're getting birth control, maybe, for certain patients, depending on risk factors, that might open up a conversation about PrEP for HIV prevention.
Yeah.
So I think it's really about looking at the patient as a whole. And so many of these services, if you figure out what's allowed in your state, documentation, billing, it's much easier to continue to expand that into the other services that you're allowed to do. So I think it's, don't just look at it as birth control in isolation. I think there's opportunities to sort of bundle all the services together, thinking about the patient.
Yeah, I know pharmacists are encountering a lot of different barriers, but they're super motivated to.
Sorry, I'm hearing Sally.
Yeah, I wanted to play something for our listeners, and of course, technology did not help me. But there was an article that came out in the news just this week that was all about birth control and pharmacists and the opportunity. And I think, once again, that's super important, because the consultant pharmacist who is listening right now, who's building their business, who's building their practice, who's reaching out to primary care, who's reaching out to pediatrics or a specialist of some kind in their community where they have a mile radius that's expanding. We have pharmacists who are driving 60 miles to meet with a group of physicians that are dialing into something very specific. That's where a huge portion of the future of pharmacists. I can't stand the naysayers, Jenny. I'm always a half glass full kind of guy. And when I hear them, well, what about the future of pharmacists and our jobs? And there's all these closings of stores, and we are in a crappy time right now in the profession. It's just the way it is right now. But guess what's happening? It's the plate tectonics of our profession where things are changing permanently, where the pharmacist is now saying to a 36-year-old woman, she's ready to become pregnant, she has asthma, she likes doing triathlons, she's talking more about her holistic health. All of a sudden, the pharmacy enters the chat, has the experience with the birth control, has the experience with asthma medication and which one she should be doing and what dosing form and blah, blah, blah. Like, goodness gracious, what a time to think of being and building your non-traditional career path.
Yeah, there's really lots of opportunities. I think, pharmacy has so long relied on, one stream of income and through dispensing fees and everything. And it's hard to sort of move beyond that, especially when there's not a great place to land in many states. Medical billing is very complicated, and pharmacists are seeing that they're running into a lot of issues with contracting and credentialing. Even if the state says pharmacists must be paid, there's not always a straightforward path to actually getting paid. And so I think that unfortunately a lot of pharmacists have run into that, and it is discouraging, but I don't think it's time to give up, because I've also heard a lot of pharmacists say things that, they sort of discount it. They say, oh, well, my patient population, there's not that many young people. Well, there probably are young people in your community. They're just not coming into your pharmacy because they don't know that you're offering services that are meant for them, like birth control. I've also heard, well, there's a clinic down the street, so they'll just go there. Well, maybe the patient would prefer to come into your pharmacy. And with the way things are now, that clinic may lose funding and may not be available for long. So it is good to continue to explore these new ways that you can sort of adapt your pharmacy to meet, today's needs.
It's an opportunity also to stand out as a provider, as a pharmacist, and let your community, not only the people, obviously the patient opportunity, of course, but let the nurse practitioner who's building their own practice, let the the state associations know what you're doing because they like to write press on it or they like to put the piece out there that gets your name out there. Like there's a whole system to this, and it's we're a bunch of salmon swimming upstream of the profession of the entire profession of healthcare. And but by the time we get to the point where now it's a fluid way that pharmacists are now being paid for their knowledge and their expertise because they're dialing into a disease state or a condition or multiple conditions in one situation, and you are being paid for that expertise, and you're getting paid better because now you're starting to develop a reputation within your region as that expert. The reason why I'm giving shout outs to our young pharmacists, to our students right now, start following experts in this spaces of different things. And in this case, follow Jenny Newland from Birth Control Pharmacist and connect with Jenny and ask questions. But start blogging more of yourself. Start getting your paperwork, your research, get it, even if it's not published yet, start writing a little bit more on it and pack yourself so that your resume and the search engines on your name and your Instagram, that this is all tying back to your brand too, and how important that is as part of this. Because going back to Sally built a brand, but it took her to do this alongside her primary position at the time to feed her family and keep her going. And then she transformed into what now is known as the birth control pharmacist, which is crazy. But a shout out to those pharmacists out there who, if you want to make a move in your career, you have to always be working at that. It's like you always have to keep in mind, what's my move of where my heart's at. And your heart, Jenny, is definitely in research because I see your eyes light up when you talk about it.
Yeah, I was very excited to make a change when I went back to grad school. I actually didn't originally know research was what I was going to do. I thought I would go back and teach, and that's how I would make a difference and change the profession. But along the way, I realized research was a great way to do that, because a great way to make change is to have evidence to support it. So.
Absolutely. I love that. All right. Well, you have to promise that you'll come back to This Week in Pharmacy and bring us another pharmacist, or bring us the evolution of the technician and supporting our pharmacists who are now more clinical. Think of the future of technicians where they become your assistants in your consultancy. And it has, once again, nothing to do with dispensing the physical medication. To get our brains around what the future of pharmacy can hold, it must involve reproductive health. It must involve expertise. It must involve personalization of medication, and start marketing that in your own community so people know that of you. That either brings more attention to the pharmacy itself as a value op, or if you're a hospital system pharmacist, it's now putting your reputation out there so that now you start getting asked by other OGBYNs and physicians and specialists and pregnancy experts. They start coming to you and saying, hey, you wrote a paper, or you put a blog out, or you had a podcast that was out a year ago, and it was like what my patient's going through. Can you look at this and kind of give us your oversight? So, and it's like, why not? That's the future of pharmacy in my book.
Yeah.
What's next for you? Where are you going to be at any conferences coming up? Is anyone going to the APHA this year?
Yes, I'm going to APHA. I'm actually receiving an award for Best Paper of the Year. I did some work on pharmacy working conditions. So it kind of ties into, again, I'm very interested in working with frontline pharmacists and figuring out what will practically work for them. So.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I think we're going to be there. I'm pretty sure based on, we have clients that we follow around sometimes and, build and cover events, but I'm going to reach back out to you, because if I'm there, I definitely want to get a quote from you and see the experience that you're having in Los Angeles this year, actually.
Yes. Yeah.
It's so much sunnier than in Los Angeles, and it's so much warmer, I'm sure, in LA right now than Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. It'll be a short trip for me this year since I'm based in SoCal. So.
Well, there you go. What's the weather like in SoCal right now?
very sunny and not windy at the moment, so that's good.
Shut up, Jenny. I don't want to talk about it.
I know I've been very quiet this week. I'm trying not to make my friends and family jealous that are spread out and dealing with this ice storm. So
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for being on This Week in Pharmacy. Thank you to our pharmacists out there who are changing the game and are working at this. If you ever want any ideas about how to build your brand or connecting with pharmacists that are in a space that you want to get into, reach out to us at the Pharmacy Podcast Network and we'll get you in touch with somebody. But Jenny, thanks for being on TWIRx.
Yep. Thank you for having me.